the long ride. I still remember that day. The sun was high in the sky and the air was warm. I was in the fields working with my hands. The earth was dry and the wind carried the smell of dust. My shirt was wet with sweat, but I did not stop. It was a quiet afternoon and everything felt normal. The birds sang in the trees and the sky was clear. But then I saw a man riding fast toward me. His horse moved quickly and dust rose behind him. I knew something was wrong. The man stopped in front of me. His face was serious and his eyes were dark. He took a deep breath and said, "Your brother is sick. He does not have much time." My heart stopped for a moment. I looked at him, trying to understand. My brother was strong. He was never sick. This could not be true, but the man's face told me it was. My hands felt weak and my legs felt heavy. Then I dropped everything and ran to my horse. The road was long. My brother lived far away in the hills beyond the river. There were no cars in those days. Only horses and strong legs could take me there. I climbed onto my horse and held the reins tight. My heart was heavy and my mind was full of thoughts. Was I too late? Would I see him again? I could not lose him. He was my brother. The sun moved slowly across the sky as I rode. The trees passed by and the fields stretched far and wide. I felt the wind on my face, but I did not care. I only thought about my brother. The road was empty and I was alone with my fears. My hands held the reins tightly and my eyes stayed on the road. The sound of my horse's hooves filled the air. I did not stop. I did not rest. My horse was strong, but I knew it was tired. I could hear its heavy breath. Still, I pushed forward. My brother needed me. I could not waste time. My legs hurt and my back was sore, but I did not slow down. Hours passed. The sky turned orange as the sun moved lower. My hands were sore and my arms were weak, but I saw the hills in the distance. His house was nearby. I took a deep breath and held on tight. I was almost there. My heart pounded in my chest and my body ached, but I did not care. I had to see him. I had to reach him before it was too late. The road became harder as I got closer. The hills were steep and the path was rough. My horse moved slower, its breath heavy and deep. I could feel its tired body, but I could not stop. My brother was waiting for me. I had to keep going. The wind grew stronger and the sky turned a darker shade of blue. The sun was falling behind the hills and shadows stretched across the land. I remember the times when we were young. My brother and I ran through these hills, laughing and shouting. We climbed trees and swam in the river. He was always faster, always stronger. He protected me when I was small. He taught me how to ride, how to fight, how to be strong. Now he was the one who needed help, and I was far away. I pulled the reins and made my horse go faster. The river came into view, its water dark and cold. I had to cross it. There was no bridge, only a shallow part where the water was low. My horse stepped in, and the cold water splashed against my legs. The current was strong, and I held on tightly. Slowly, step by step, we moved forward. My heart pounded as the water reached my knees. But then we reached the other side, and I took a deep breath. I had no time to waste. The road turned to dirt again, and I pushed forward. My legs ached and my back was stiff, but I did not slow down. The trees stood tall around me, their leaves whispering in the wind. The night was coming, and I had to reach my brother before it was too late. My mind was full of memories, his voice, his smile, the way he always knew what to do. I could not lose him. Not now. The stars began to appear, small lights in the darkening sky. I knew the way, even in the dark. I had traveled this road before. My horse was tired, and so was I, but I could not stop. Every breath, every step brought me closer. I could see the outline of the house in the distance. The lights inside were still burning. He was there. He was waiting. I reached the last hill, my hands tied on the reins. My heart pounded in my chest. I was almost home. I whispered to my horse, asking for one last effort. It pushed forward, climbing the hill with all its strength. The house grew larger, clearer. I could see the door, the windows, the smoke from the chimney. My journey was almost over. I had made it, but I did not know what I would find inside. I reached the house and pulled the reins. My horse stopped, breathing hard. Its body was covered in sweat, and I could feel its exhaustion. I ran my hand over its neck, whispering thanks. Then I climbed down. My legs were weak and my body ached, but I did not stop. I looked at the house. The door was closed, but the windows were glowing with light. I took a deep breath and walked forward. The wooden steps creaked under my boots. I reached the door and placed my hand on it. For a moment, I stood still. My heart was heavy and my chest felt tight. I was afraid of what I would see inside, but I had no choice. I knocked once, then twice. The sound echoed in the quiet night. Then the door opened. My brother's wife stood there. Her face was pale, her eyes red from crying. She did not speak. She only stepped aside and let me in. The room was warm, and the smell of burning would fill the air. A single lamp burned on the table, casting long shadows on the walls. My eyes moved across the room, searching. Then I saw him. He lay on the bed, his body thin and weak. His face was pale, and his eyes were closed. He looked smaller than I remembered, like time had stolen his strength. I took a step forward, my boots heavy on the wooden floor. My hand shook as I reached out. Then his eyes opened. For a moment he looked at me, confused. Then a small smile formed on his lips. His voice was weak, but I heard it. "You came," he whispered. My chest tightened, and I swallowed hard. I nodded, unable to speak. I pulled a chair close and sat beside him. I had ridden all day, but now I did not feel tired. I was here. That was all that mattered. Silence filled the room. The fire crackled in the hearth, and the wind howled outside. I looked at him, at the brother I had known all my life. He was different now, but he was still my brother. I placed my hand on his arm, feeling the warmth of his skin. He was still here. He was still breathing, and that was enough. The night passed slowly. I sat by his side, listening to his breathing. Sometimes he opened his eyes and looked at me. Other times he slept, his body still and quiet. I did not leave. I stayed, watching over him, just as he had watched over me when we were young. Outside, the wind blew and the stars shone in the dark sky, but inside everything was still. I had made it. I was home. The night was long, but I did not sleep. I sat beside my brother, watching him breathe. His face was calm, but his body was weak. Every few minutes his eyes opened, and he looked at me. He did not speak much, but his eyes said everything. He was tired. He had fought for a long time. Now he only wanted peace. I stayed silent, afraid to break the quiet. The fire in the hearth burned low, and the shadows on the walls danced in the dim light. I thought about the past. When we were children, we were always together. We ran through the fields, climbed the trees, and swam in the river. We had no worries, no fears. He was older, stronger, and I always followed him. He taught me how to ride, how to fish, how to survive. I looked up to him. He was not just my brother. He was my protector, my guide. And now he lay in bed, weak and silent. It felt wrong. It felt unfair. His wife moved quietly around the room, placing a wet cloth on his forehead. She looked tired, her face lined with worry. I wanted to say something, but no words came. Instead, I reached for my brother's hand and held it gently. His skin was warm but fragile, like old paper. He looked at me again, and for the first time I saw something in his eyes. Not fear, not pain, but peace. He was not afraid. He was ready for whatever came next. The hours passed, and the house was silent. The wind outside had stopped, and the only sound was the of the fire. My body ached from the long ride, but I did not move. I did not want to miss a moment. My brother's breathing was slow but steady. Every breath felt like a gift, something precious. I wish I could hold time still just for a little longer, but time does not wait. It moves forward, whether we are ready or not. The first light of dawn crept through the window. The dark sky turned to soft gray, and the stars disappeared one by one. My brother's wife brought a cup of tea and placed it in my hands. I held it, feeling the warmth, but I did not drink. My throat was dry, my heart heavy. I wanted to speak, to tell my brother everything I'd never said, but words felt small, too weak for the moment. Instead, I just sat there, letting the silence say what I could not. Morning arrived, but I did not feel its warmth. My brother was still here, but I knew things would never be the same. The man I had always known, the man who had taught me everything, was slipping away, and there was nothing I could do but stay by his side. The sun rose higher, painting the sky with gold. A new day had begun, but for me the night had not ended. The morning light filled the room, but my brother did not move. He lay still, his breathing slow and soft. I watched him, afraid to look away. His wife placed a hand on my shoulder. She did not speak, but I understood. She had spent many nights like this, waiting, watching, hoping. I felt the weight of time pressing down on me. I had traveled so far, but now I could do nothing but sit and wait. I stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the land stretched far and wide. The hills we once climbed stood tall in the distance. The river we swam in shimmered under the sun. Everything looked the same, yet everything felt different. I closed my eyes, remembering the past, the sound of our laughter, the feel of the wind as we raced our horses, the nights we spent under the stars. It all felt like another life, a world that no longer existed. When I turned back, my brother's eyes were open. He was looking at me, a faint smile on his lips. His voice was weak, almost a whisper, but I heard it. "Do you remember?" he asked. I nodded, unable to speak. I remembered everything. The days of our childhood, the lessons he taught me, the times he carried me home when I was too tired to walk. He was always there, always strong. Now he needed me, and I would not leave him. I sat beside him again, holding his hand. The warmth of his skin was fading, but he was still here. That was all that mattered. His wife brought him water, and he sipped it slowly. Every movement was an effort, but he did not complain. He never did. He had always been the strongest of us. Even now, as his body failed him, his spirit remained unbroken. The hours passed, and the house was quiet. The fire had burned low, and only soft embers remained. My brother closed his eyes again, his breathing steady but weak. I did not move. I did not speak. I only sat there, holding on to the moment, holding on to him. The sun climbed higher in the sky, but inside time stood still. The afternoon sun shone through the window, filling the room with soft golden light. My brother slept, his breathing slow but steady. I sat beside him, my hands resting on my knees. The house was quiet, except for the distant sound of birds outside. His wife moved silently, placing a fresh cloth on his forehead. She looked at me, her eyes full of worry and exhaustion. I wanted to say something to offer comfort, but no words came. I only nodded, and she nodded back. I thought about the journey that had brought me here, the long ride, the endless road, the pain in my body. It all felt like a dream now. Only this moment was real. The past and the future did not matter. All that mattered was that I was here, that he was not alone. I had come to see him, to sit beside him, to remember who we were. I had come because he was my brother and nothing else was more important. His fingers moved slightly and his eyes opened. He looked at me, his gaze steady but tired. "You should rest," he whispered. His voice was barely audible, but I heard it. I shook my head. "I'm fine," I said. He smiled faintly, the same smile I had seen 1,000 times before. It was small, but it was real. He knew I would not leave. He knew I would stay for as long as he needed me. Outside, the sun began to set, turning the sky orange and pink. The wind carried the scent of the earth, the trees, the distant river. I breathed in deeply, letting the air fill my lungs. The world was still moving, still changing. But in this room, time stood still. I wanted to hold on to this moment to make it last, but I knew I could not. Night came and the stars appeared just as they always had. My brother closed his eyes again, his breathing soft and peaceful. His wife sat near the fire, her hands folded in her lap. I remained by his side, listening to the quiet, feeling the weight of everything we had shared. He was still here. I was still here. And for now, that was enough. It's a good way to practice English every day. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories.